Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of the Mission Matters Business Podcast, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you'd like to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Kristi Royse on the line, and she's CEO over at KLR Consulting. Kristi, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam.
So excited to get into today's topic. So how leaders build trust, improve team performance. But before we do that, let's get a little bit further into what you're doing over at KLR Consulting. Tell us a little bit more about the company, please.
Wow. Adam, passionate engagement is a core value I am so blessed to have lived my entire career. Basically, I was CEO at a major company when I had this aha moment, and I realized that if I combined my own leadership expertise with my passion about leadership, I could teach others how to improve their leadership and team skills. So for the last 40 years, really, I feel old, I've been passionately engaged in building strong leaders, teams, and healthy organizations. And I've collected so many best and worst practices that I am passionate about sharing them with the world.
Oh, that's amazing. And that's why you're the person I want on this podcast talking about today's subject. So how leaders build trust to improve team performance. Where do you want to start with that one?
Gosh, well, it really starts with communicating and collaborating. And of course, this requires building and improving trust, which to me is one of the most critical elements that leaders have to do well. Well, to be honest, take the lead on. They have to understand what it is, why it is so important that they can model it for their teams. I'm sure many of you have read Brené Brown's work. And she talks so much about vulnerability and the importance of vulnerability. And unfortunately, it's arduous for people to feel vulnerable. But as a leader, they need to step up to the plate and make certain that they are leading by example and showing what really vulnerability is that leads to truly excellent teams.
Where do you think that a lot of leaders kind of make mistakes along this path?
Oh, great question. And one of the big mistakes I see is leaders do not understand the transition to move from management to leadership. And they spend a lot more time doing than leading. Patrick Lencioni just wrote a brand new book. I think it's been out for maybe 3 weeks now. It's called The Motive. And what he talks so much about in this book that I so align with is that not everybody should be a leader. If you are in the leadership role for a reward, you shouldn't be doing it. Leaders need to be in their roles to give. And I think, again, the transition between management and leadership, they don't always understand the unique differences and the challenges. So those are a lot of clients that come to me, and I can help them better understand, again, trust. How can you be vulnerable? What do you need to do to really step up to that plate in that leadership position?
No, I love that. I love that. And what I want to do is, a lot of business owners, a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of executives listening right now. And obviously the idea of team building and now a lot of people are working remote that hadn't in the past. What kind of tips would you give to these leaders out here that are now faced with a new leadership, let's say, challenge that they maybe haven't been in the past, and relating back to team performance, just kind of keeping up team performance all at the same time? Because you've seen, and the reason I ask you this question is because, as you mentioned, you've been in this space for 40 years, so you've seen this happen through many, many cycles. Not the exact thing that's happening now, but you were there in 2008, you were there in 2002. I mean, you've seen these different challenges. So what kind of tips would you give to those leaders out there that are listening to this right now?
Well, first off, Adam, I would say it's not game over, it's game on. And I think once we get through this hopefully small transition of figuring out how people can work effectively from their home offices. It's not any different, to be honest. I guess what really pops out at me more than anything else is you have got to increase communication as a leader. That, we talked about the team huddles. Those are even more important. They may not happen at 8 o'clock in the morning because we're getting our kids up or whatever we're doing at home. But remember as leaders that you are still leading those teams and communicating, collaborating, connecting, all really important. I talk a lot about in my work what we call the 4 C's. And the 4 C's are very applicable in this time as well. And what the 4 C's include are competence leads to confidence, leads to credibility, leads to courage. And you have to have all 4 in order to really stand up, whether you're in the room or outside the room, to be a strong leader, to build high trust teams.
Yeah, and I think that the idea of high trust right now is a big deal. Like, it's a big deal because obviously a lot of people are shaken by what's going on. Everybody's affected, so it's a big deal. And I love the fact that you said it's game on. So when you said that, I'm like, because I wanted to hear from you that it was just like where your mind was at with this. And I feel the same way, but I've not been working in that space for the amount of time that you have. So I'm not claiming I have that same expertise. So that being said, Kristi, a 2-part question, because I can talk to you about this all day long, but we're running a little short on time. So 2-part question. The first part is, what kind of companies, what kind of executives, like what's typically a good fit to work with your consulting group? And it's first part of the question. And then second part of the question is, what's the best way for people to reach out?
Thanks, Adam. Well, I would say number 1 would be any manager or leader who is really looking to build excellence in themselves and excellence in their teams. I think every company should have what we've heard the title before, a CRO. They need to be a chief reminder officer. So really thinking about how do they build excellence, especially in this time, and how are they reminding people what's important. Secondly, would be teams who just want to increase their communication, their collaboration, and their trust. And then the last ideal client for me, an individual, Adam, is anybody who's looking to up their game on presentation skills. And that might be presentation of one-on-one or presentation 1 to 1,000. How you show up to that plate in every conversation is the key to building your trust and your success.
That's awesome. Well, hey, Kristi, it's been great having you on the show today. Really appreciate you coming on and sharing more about your background and all the great work that you're doing over at KLR Consulting, but of course also on how you are teaching people how to build trust and improve team performance. So, all great stuff there. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. If you did, don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave me a review on the Apple iTunes Store. If you're watching this on our YouTube channel, Mission Matters Business, definitely give us a subscribe there, but also leave us some comments in the video section. Let us know what kind of things you're working on. I'd love to know what kind of projects you got on your plate. And Kristi, thank you again for coming on the show.